I was born in 97.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. 90s.
And I'm Zachary, and it's Zachary.
Yeah.
So he is Zachray. He just shortens it as Zack.
Wait, R-A, okay.
Yeah,
Not
he's the same as
R-A-I.
you. Same exact spelling as you. Did I spell it wrong?
Yes, you
I
did.
meant to say why.
Have you ever gone by Zachary?
Usually like close family.
I call him Zachary when he's
like,
in trouble.
But yeah,
Yes.
I started spelling Zach with a K all the way back to when I learned how to spell my name. Like I was like, I don't care. It should be a K.
He just wanted.
I'm not Zach.
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 But is it like legal? Is it legal or it's just how you write it?
Well, the legal
just
is
how he
it might,
writes it,
yeah. But that's how I've always abbreviated my name is with a K.
Yeah, everyone always called me Zach growing up, except when I was in trouble. But once I like got to LA and started working, I was like, it's got to be Zachary.
Zachary.
You know,
It fits. It's a good one.
Yeah, Zach didn't fit for me, but I'm happy for you. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you guys so much for coming on, and thank you guys everyone for listening and tuning in. We have Zack and Bliss here from season 4 of Love Is Blind, and they have an exciting announcement that there is a podcast coming up between them called Blind Love, launching October 10th. So we're gonna get into it. They just welcomed their baby girl a few months ago, Galileo. Am I saying that right?
Galileo. Yep.
Galileo.
Like the astronomer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we are going to chat and get updated and see what's going on. So how are you guys doing today?
We are great. We are tired. I'd say less tired today than the last few days. So that's always a win for new parents.
So this week I have been woken up twice at 5 a.m. by a fire alarm.
Yeah, not the baby, a fire alarm.
Well, the baby as well, but yes, and a fire alarm.
Okay, so what was worse?
Oh, probably the fire alarm.
It depends at where my REM sleep is, honestly. Because sometimes I'll get like 30 minutes in, and then it's like, Zach, where am I?
But what is easier to make quiet, the fire alarm or the baby?
The baby.
She's
for sure.
Honestly, she's so good.
Yeah,
the second that she gets picked up, she's quiet. She's like,
yeah.
Baby.
So what do babies wake up for in the middle of the night? Just because they want to be picked up? Do they need to be fed? Do they have to go to the bathroom?
All sorts of reasons. Definitely because they're hungry. Sometimes they just want to hang out. Sometimes they just want to be held.
Oh my
Sometimes
God.
they might have a wet diaper. It's kind of like process of elimination, right? Because they can't like tell you what's going on. That'd be so nice. But we're teaching her sign language. So hopefully she'll be able to communicate with us before like maybe her words are quite there. She can use her sign language.
I think her reasons for wanting to get out of bed have diversified, whereas pretty much before it was just milk. She just wants milk or doesn't want milk. But now she's become more aware of her surroundings, and she's realized that mom and dad's bed is much softer.
Yeah. Yes.
And so she's like,
I mean, we get it. Like, I don't want to sleep on a hard bassinet bed either.
Yeah.
She's like, you guys are sitting there like kings and queens while I sit in this bassinet.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they have that for dogs where they're training dogs to like press buttons based on what they need. So I feel like by the time she's like 6 months, maybe 8 months, they could have an invention and that could work.
Totally. My sister's dog does that. She like presses love all the time when she wants like cuddles, and it's all she wants.
Love.
It's cute.
Love.
Yeah. I love that. Well, let's run it back a little bit. Let's talk about Love Is Blind and the show and the marriage, and then we'll kind of catch up with you guys a little bit at the end. I need to know how you guys got on Love Is Blind to begin with. Were you reached out to? Did you apply? And why did you sign up?
I got a phone call. I actually got a voicemail because I'm like one of those people who doesn't answer my phone. I'm like, no, you can text me. Zach loves to answer the phone though. But anyway, I got a voicemail and I was like listening to it and they're like, oh, a documentary. I'm like, a documentary? Like, that's weird. Like, I'm not going to call them back. And I randomly just decided to call them back and they're like, oh, have you heard of Love Is Blind? And I was like, yeah, of course. And they're like, oh, well, would you ever consider going on it? And I was like, what? And so that's my experience with it.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of a similar experience. I'd never even watched a reality TV show up till that point. I think I'd heard of Survivor and a few shows, but I got a random call. And I think that what had happened, I don't know this for sure, but my sister nominated me to be on The Bachelorette. Okay. And so somehow I think that when she applied for that, and I didn't sign up for that. But I think when my sister did that, my contact information got within some kind of funnel. So I think that's the only way that anyone could have.
Because you got a phone call as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was not, I was living in a small town. I don't even I don't even think they knew where I lived. I think they thought Wenatchee, Washington, which is like 2 hours away from Seattle, was like a suburb of Seattle.
Yeah.
And they almost didn't even go on the show.
Well, they like to find people who like don't know about the show in general, because that's kind of maybe how you can produce them, or that maybe makes the most organic TV. And it sounds like you didn't have a lot of knowledge on pop culture or reality TV, Zach, but maybe Bliss, you were kind of in the know.
Oh yeah, definitely. I was sucked in by Bachelor Nation against my will, but and I always loved Love is Blind. I'm not like super, like, I don't watch every single reality TV show, but I do watch enough to like be in the know for sure. So I was like shook when they're like, oh yeah, we're from Love is Blind. I was like, what?
So you've seen the show, the first couple seasons?
Yeah.
And you were like down to like sign up for the experiment and get married?
Yeah, I was single, and I was very much of the mindset that like, why not try this experience? The probability of it is so low of it working out. Like if I knew it was going to work out, I would have been way more nervous. I would have been like freaking out. I was like, I'm probably not even going to be shown, much less followed, much less get engaged, much less get married.
Yeah.
So why not just go and try this new thing and have fun with it? That was my mindset.
For sure. Zach, what was your mindset going into it? You kind of got signed up against your will.
Okay. It wasn't against my will. It was more just, I didn't sign up for anything. I just was perplexed. I was like, what is going on? Is this for real? But yeah, I watched a couple episodes after. Yeah. But I will tell you, one of my friends who was on the show, he never watched the show. He never, going into it, he didn't know what it was. I couldn't understand that. Because for me, if I do something, like I research it intensively. Basically any decision I make, I spend way too much time researching.
Except about getting married to me.
I spent a lot of time researching. Like we spend a lot of time talking in the pods.
A lot of time,
Oh, yeah. I have some pod questions when we get there.
But yeah, so going into it, I did watch it to kind of figure out and understand what it was. And I actually,
you were purposeful about it, I feel like.
I watched the show with my cousin because my niece was born like shortly before I went on the show. And I went down to go visit my cousin, and we were watching season 2 together. And I remember she said to me, she's like, "Oh my gosh, you should go on there."
You're like, no.
And I was in the process of being interviewed at that time, and I couldn't tell her.
Well, season 2 was like crazy. I feel like that season really like put it on the map. I mean, season 1 also did so well. I got into it season 2 because of the success of season 1, and even the crossover of them having Francesca on also kind of hooked me. But once I saw season 2, I was like, whoa. And I still think season 2 is the messiest season to date.
Yeah, a lot happened in that season.
You think it's more messy than 5?
Yeah. What was 5?
5 was like, was it in Houston? Yeah, Houston.
Yeah.
It was with Lydia and Milton were the couple that
I thought that was the least rated one. I felt like that was the one most people were least interested in.
I thought it was pretty messy.
Season 3 was like 3 was like wholesome and had like good. Same with 4, the one you guys were on.
Yeah.
And then I feel like now we're on season 7. Have you guys started watching the new season?
Yeah, we watched episode 1 last night. Are you all caught up?
I watched like 3 episodes.
Okay.
Because they dropped 6 so far.
No spoilers. We've only watched the first episode.
Yeah.
Well, are you guys like, are you invested? Do you get invested right away, or does it take you a little bit?
I think we get invested right away. I think that's how it'll always feel for us.
Yeah.
Even if the seasons like aren't,
Yeah, I have a couple that I'm rooting for, and it's hard because you really.
Well, we don't even know who gets engaged yet.
I don't know if they're going to get engaged, but I'm rooting for them from the pods.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So by the way, Bliss is the queen of protecting people against spoilers.
Like, I'm like, no, don't say
the most minor thing. I'll be reading a book and I want to tell her about it. I'm like, yeah, he had a blue shirt.
Book one day.
A blue shirt. The man walked in with a blue shirt. She's like, you just spoiled that for me.
Oh no.
That's not a spoiler.
So do you like not go on social media, let's say after an episode airs? Like, do you know just not to look?
It. It's so hard because it's also like muscle memory to just like go on Instagram and stuff like without even realizing it. And I've definitely had stuff spoiled and I've gotten like really sad about it.
I understand.
We had Joey's season spoiled for us from social media.
Yeah.
We're scrolling and I was like,
it wasn't by me, right? Hopefully not by me. I said, hopefully not by me.
No, not by you. No.
Okay.
Sometimes.
But you know what?
But you know, people can't get mad at you about that, right? Like you're just, once the episode airs, look, it's all fair game.
This is what I'll say about spoilers. I think spoilers are something that boosts a viewership. And the reason is because you have to watch, otherwise it's going to get spoiled. And so like, we're like, okay, we have to watch this. Otherwise
I think we upgraded our Hulu account the night to watch it just for that night.
Yeah. We did.
I can understand
so that was for the Bachelorette.
Oh, that was for the Bachelorette.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. I'll always say in the beginning of my TikToks, I'll say, swipe up if you don't want to get spoiled. And I'll try and say it right away. But I mean, sometimes you really just have to get right to the T. Otherwise, people are going to like tune out. Like you got to hook them. So it's a fine line. I don't like spoilers anymore. I used to love them when I started Love is Blind, actually, especially. I felt like it was so interesting. It was boosting like engagement and everyone was more interested in the spoilers than the actual videos. Now I find that spoilers don't work like they used to because it's so easy to figure things out these days, the way the internet has become. And even like the contracts on reality TV, it seems like everyone has more freedom now. So now I feel like spoilers are not in and everyone should stay away from them.
I'll tell you, people get it wrong sometimes. There was someone who put out a bunch of spoilers about us.
That's true,
and they were wrong. They were wrong. They said we didn't. They said we didn't get married.
Yeah,
and that was all a lot of people were circulating that.
It's all over Reddit.
Okay. Well, when you guys got married, I was like shook. I'm shook whenever anyone gets married on this show. I don't understand. I watch it and I see like intellectual conversations in the pods, but I'm like, how do you really fall for people and like have actual feelings without seeing them, hugging them? Like it's just conversations.
Yeah, it's so wild because I feel like you cannot understand it unless you actually go through it, because especially when you're watching it on TV, it's cut down what you see, like 1 or 2% of what actually goes on, especially the pod discussions. Like some of the dates are like 5 hours long. And so you really, really get deep into it. And you really truly do fall in love. Like you see us say that we loved each other on the show in the pods. Like you even have like a sexual attraction in ways. It's the most bizarre thing because you can't see them. And that's why it truly is an experiment, right? But it's something you would never expect. And it's something that you're never going to really get. I think in the real world.
I think like, people can understand it though. I think I think
like they can logically understand it, but maybe not empathize with it. Like, how it feels.
It's just strange because it's just like you're proposing to a wall. Like that's not how I imagine my engagement to be.
Well, my engagement was in real life, so I will say that, I
have
that.
What I would say about that is if you think about like what is it that really causes you to fall in love with a person. And I think the core of it is vulnerability, right? When you're truly, genuinely vulnerable with someone and you show who you are at the deepest level, your flaws, the things that you are afraid to show others. When you do that and you're accepted for those things, and someone else shows you their flaws and they reveal that to you, like that's the core. Vulnerability is the core of what how people fall in love. I think the time, people think about, oh, well, it takes a long time. It just generally takes people a long time to get vulnerable. But like, I think if you thought about it and you really genuinely revealed your character and who you are at your core, your wants, your desires, your fears, the flaws that you have, and you met someone behind a wall and they heard you and you felt heard and they accepted you for who you were at your core. And then you accepted this person and you admired them for the attributes that you learned about them. I think you would fall in love pretty quickly.
That's a fair point, babe. Yeah.
But then how do you do that with the cameras? Because that would psych me out, knowing that like I'm sharing my vulnerabilities, my secrets, like something that's reserved for like one person that I'm pouring a relationship into. Like I would be so paranoid that like the whole world was watching me, like
And
so
they are.
vulnerable.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
You know, honestly, you forget the cameras are there. Like you genuinely do. Like at first you're like, this is so awkward and weird, but in the pods, the cameras are they're in the walls, you know? And then they have like kind of like a fake mirror, if you will, and there are some cameras behind there. And I remember I was having a really intimate moment with Zach, and I heard like the chair squeak. One of the cameramen like moved his chair, and I was like really like, oh, I didn't want him to hear that. Like creepy, you know? And so that kind of freaked me out for a second and brought me back to, oh my God, like we're being watched. But you genuinely can habituate almost anything, and you kind of just forget the cameras are there. And you have to be kind of brave a little bit too, right? If you want to really fall in love on here, you really are looking for it. Because when I went into it, I was like, I'm not going to put on any airs. I'm not going to try, because everyone's like, what's your plan? You know? And then I didn't have a plan. I was just going to go be myself, because if I genuinely wanted this to work out, I genuinely I had to be true. I had to be myself.
Yeah. I think for me, that realization came somewhere in the middle of day one. And I was almost ready to leave, because there were things that I talked about that I was very, very guarded about from my past. And you know, some of that like you see on the show, some of it you don't. But I like when I realized that I was going to have to talk with people about things like losing family members, things like, you know, heartbreak, and those things that I had kept so close for so long. And I had like a very short time period. So I realized on day one that if I really wanted to find love, which I did, right? I genuinely was looking for my wife. And that's why I moved to Seattle. Like I had moved to Seattle, whether I went on the show or not. I was in a small town, and my dating life was just not working out. So I was like, okay, I got to move. I got to go somewhere. I got to, you know, and I was like, you know, maybe this isn't going to hurt my dating life. Hopefully, maybe it would have actually, but
I think it could. I think it could hurt a lot of people's dating lives, like after the show. Not just for you, like for anyone in general. I feel like it would make things harder to date, especially if everyone already knows your business, and then it becomes a spectacle. Like they're from this show, and it's just like you can't escape that. Like no matter where you go for years.
And are they dating you for you or because you were on the show?
Yeah. And I've seen that with some of my friends.
For sure. So when you're in the pods for 5 hours, are you talking for all 5 hours, or are there some silent moments? Are there potentially are you trying to kiss each other, and like how sexy does it get? Like,
I mean, I think some people got pretty sexy with it. After that guy moved his chair, I was like, shutting it down for me. Like I would not want, it made me realize, oh, I'm being watched. I don't want my family to hear anything weird. But, you know, I think if you talk to Zach, there's no quiet moments usually. We honestly, when they cut your mic when your date is over. And we would sometimes be in the middle of a conversation or a discussion or a sentence. I think maybe one date we ended saying goodbye when we had 5 minutes left or something. But yeah, you're talking the whole time. I mean, you want to take advantage of each and every moment that you have, especially when you're getting close to those 5-hour dates, because that means you've leaned it down to a couple of people. So you really want to utilize that time. But yeah, you're playing games sometimes. You know, sometimes you might take a nap. Tiffany knows about
songs.
that.
I sing a lot of songs to Bliss.
He did sing me a lot of songs, actually. Yeah.
You don't try and peek through the holes of the wall.
I mean, you could try, but they got it locked up. I think Love Is Blind Japan, they can actually pass things through a little hole. Yeah, but we don't have that.
You remember the Kool-Aid commercials, Zachary?
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine. I think that'd be an amazing episode if someone just ran right through the wall.
Well, I was gonna say there needs to be a guy who has anger issues that is gonna actually take down the wall. Break it down completely. That's so crazy. Also, what are your relationships like with your editors, producers? Let's say the people who are watching you constantly throughout the whole experience. Do you feel a weird bond with them, or is it just kind of never really talk to you again? They're on to the next season anyway.
No, I think you really bond with these people. These people like know you. Like they are, like you said, they're like observing and watching you, and like they really, really like learn who you are, and you become very close with them. You're around them almost as much as you're around, your partner while you're filming.
Yeah.
So I feel like with our producer, we had a really close bond, and we still occasionally FaceTime and talk with him.
Have you ever watched The Hunger Games?
I was really into it, the first one, and then they kind of lost me.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Like, I love the first book. Like the first book was really good. But I actually feel like, generally the books are better than the movies. Like that's just generally how it is. But I actually think the movie was better than the book. I really think that. But I'm getting sidetracked here. The reason I brought that up is, like the connection that they have, that they take someone from their district. And I don't, what do they call them?
A mentor?
A mentor. We'll call him a mentor. Yeah. So they have the mentor who helps prepare them. That was my experience. It felt very much like that, like a mentor that was there to help me for an experience that I didn't really know anything about.
Can guide you.
Yeah. I felt like for me, I had a really close connection. With my producer.
Yeah. So when you guys get out of the pods, now you guys didn't initially pick each other in the pods. You kind of like swapped after, right? So do you think you had, does that make your relationship different than any of the other couples who got like engaged in the pods?
I don't know. I think importantly, we fell in love in the pods. So I think that if we had not exchanged I love yous and not gotten there in love in the pods, then maybe it would be different. I mean, I think for me, like, and I'm probably biased, like the fact that I was able to look him in the eye when he proposed to me, like made my proposal like so incredibly special. What are your thoughts, babe?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think it really matters. I mean, at the core of it, it's like the whole goal of Love is Blind is for people to find their person, is to find the person that they want to spend the rest of their life with. But with Bliss and I, we fell in love before we met each other.
Yeah, and sorry, I'll let you finish your thought, but I
have
another thought.
And that was the core of it. Like the core of it was that I mean, I knew that you were everything that I wanted in a wife. But I think for me, like, I mean, I was really afraid of her getting hurt and me getting hurt and it just not working out, in the real world, because there were some very real obstacles that I believe that we were going to have to overcome, that had nothing to do with her or me. But they had to do with the real world, right? And I was really afraid that if it didn't work out and we ended it, like after that we were both going to end up really, really messed up. And so that was eating at me. And I think trying to be a little bit overly analytical about predicting the future, which none of us can do, is what really ended up getting in the way, because I actually decided not to propose to Bliss like last minute. I had decided the night before. I had told the producers that I was going to get engaged to Bliss, and then in the morning I changed my mind. So I think for me, I was so in love with Bliss, before we ever met, and so I think our love story is more complicated, and like what happened with us, but at the core of it, we both fell in love with each other for who we were, on the inside.
Yeah, and I think too, like when you're asking like if there's differences, like we had to go through a real obstacle before we got married. We were actually able to test out conflict and test out, like we broke up and then we got back together. Like I think we had like a realness to our relationship in a different way. Not that the other relationships are not real, of course they are, but that aspect of like having a challenge to overcome rather than everything just being like a perfect fairy tale and then getting married.
Yeah.
So we were able to kind of have that experience with each other, which is just bound to have challenges come up in marriage. So it was kind of good, I think, for us to be able to experience that before we got married.
For sure. It's nice to hear about all the obstacles you guys had to overcome because you came out of it on the other side, and it's so clear that you guys are so in sync and like in love still, and it's really great to see. It's authentic. I want to talk about your wedding. So obviously it happened on TV, it happened quick. What do you think were some of the pros and cons to getting married on the show versus like if you did it separately? And have you guys thought about maybe doing a separate wedding, years later that will be like completely in your control?
Yeah, I think we're definitely gonna have a vow renewal where we'll get to decide every detail, or I will, because Zach probably doesn't care.
Just I want to choose a cake.
Yeah,
Fair
he wants
enough.
the cake. But I mean, honestly, so we were able to tell them like what we wanted, and they did such a good job on my wedding. Like it was
good.
gorgeous because I was really freaked out because I had no idea what it was going to look like and how it was going to come to fruition. But it was gorgeous. I loved it. I think that obviously like our wedding was on a Monday. So like we would never have our wedding on a Monday in the real world.
No,
And
it'd be a budget. It'd be a good budget cost.
yeah, that's true. But I'm not like that's not something I want to find budget on is my wedding. My
Fair
wedding
enough.
is like, you know what I mean? So I think we would have it on a Saturday or something, and more of our family and friends would be able to come. I think having it be so last minute, we have a lot of family that doesn't live close to us. So having them there would have been different. And I think my dress was perfect. I think I loved my dress. It was actually a miracle that I found my dress in time because they didn't have anything I liked at first. And then it literally got shipped to the store while we were there, and they like took it out of the box, and I was like, perfect. I'm trying to think what else we would change. I mean, probably have a little bit of a longer reception. It was kind of short, but what about you?
I wouldn't change anything. Honestly, for me, that wedding was the most magical, beautiful
really
moment.
beautiful.
Just standing up there, I felt so grateful for all my friends and family who came because very, very short notice. You have to remember, I mean, like the notice that our family had was a lot shorter
than the other couples.
So I mean, our wedding is the fastest probably in Love Is Blind history from engagement to marriage. I think, what was it, 2 weeks?
It was like 11 or 12 days.
Well, that like cancels out all the stress that could have been a year or two worth of planning.
That's so true. Because I was like, I want to be involved, but I'm like so glad I wasn't. There's no way I could have made any decisions in that amount of time on my flowers and my this and my that. So yeah. I think we loved it. It was beautiful.
Those are the pros that it makes it so much easier, actually.
Yeah. Standing up there though and looking out at the crowd and seeing all of these people, my friends who had played these really big roles in my life throughout my childhood to adulthood to where I was at that moment. And it felt like an Avengers movie to me. Like I was looking out, like people who would never be together, and they'd all came together for this one moment. And it was just so beautiful. Now, I wouldn't change anything.
You have a lot of interesting metaphors.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. Can I ask who you guys are still closest with on the show, and what couples you kind of root for in the Love Is Blind, realm?
Yeah, I think we root for everyone. Like love is love, and that's beautiful, and that's what you want for everyone in the world, right? We're really close with Chelsea and Kwame still, of course. We're close with Tiff and Brett. Tiff was just up here for my birthday this last weekend, and I think you're going to see Brett tonight, actually.
Yeah, Brett, Paul, Marshall.
Those are Amber.
The three that I stay in contact with most.
But we have a pretty good relationship with most everyone in the Love Is Blind world. So
yeah, and there's some people you didn't get to know that we're close friends with. So there, Jimmy, you only get to see him a little bit.
I dated Jimmy for a long time.
Yeah, you only get to see Jimmy for a little bit.
And after the altar.
Yeah, but we stay in contact with him. He's such a cool guy.
Yeah.
Let's Chat reunion. That obviously was like how many months after until like the show was filmed?
It was almost a full year.
So how did you guys feel going into that? Was it like ready to just stand on business? You just want to celebrate your love? Like what kind of headspace were you guys in for that?
I think it was both of those things. I think it was like we really wanted to celebrate our love, and we were apprehensive, I think, because it was live. They were trying to do it was live, and it was a whole thing. So it was kind of like this was our last little like closing a little bit of that chapter, besides, of course, after the altar. But I think we came in there with, but what do you think was our mindset?
The going into the reunion was so anxiety inducing. It was live, and it's probably the last one they'll ever do live.
Yeah, it is. They haven't done it since.
Yeah. And it was really stressful. I think for me, the thing that I kept asking myself is, what is it that I want the world to hear? Because I knew in that moment that it's like the most anyone's ever going to listen to me, right? Ever, like, in my life. And so I think that the message that I really wanted to convey, and I actually, before going in there, I don't know if you're familiar with the receipts post that
No.
Yeah. So
Do tell.
Well, so going into it, there was going to be a confrontation, right, with my ex, and my whole message that I wanted the world to hear is like, look, she made some mistakes, but she is redeemable. This person, like the whole world, when they watch Love Is Blind, they want to attack the people they perceive as being villains, and I my whole thing is, like, it's punishment enough to see someone at their worst recorded for the whole world to see. Like, that's enough. Like, and I think the bullying has gotten out of hand with reality TV and social media. So while I still wanted to address the truth of the matter, because that was important to me, I think the core message that I wanted people to hear is that everybody needs grace, and that we need to move on past the pain, and not perpetuate the cycle of pain. And so I spent a long time. So I wrote like a story about my mother, and how grace and forgiveness had changed my relationship with my mother. And I referenced it on that episode, and I just said, hey, look, if you want to see the receipts, you can go check them out on my Instagram. I just posted them. And so a lot of people went on there thinking that it was receipts to kind of
something juicy.
Yeah, something juicy to like
not your style.
The message was really about forgiveness, and that was for me going into the reunion what I really hoped that people would take from it, because that's what I think the world needs, is more love.
No, I remember at the time, like, you guys handled that very maturely, and I actually did have Arena on my podcast like a week after the reunion. So if anyone wants to go back and listen, feel free. I guess it was a couple years ago, but she was like really nice and chill. I loved meeting her. I want to see her on another show.
I know. I thought we were going to see her on Perfect Match. I'm surprised she wasn't on there.
Yeah. Did you guys watch Perfect Match?
Yes,
both seasons. Yeah.
I never watched season 1. I didn't watch season 1, but I watched season 2.
I have slowly become a reality TV guy.
Well, how could you not? Like you said in the beginning, like, of course you were hooked on Love Is Blind, because it's like it's your home. It's where you guys met. I do want to touch on After the Altar. What was that experience like? Did you was there like a money, grab involved too, that kind of made it nice too?
Not necessarily. I think it was more of like, again, closing the chapter for our season. I don't think it was. What do you mean by the money question? I guess
I feel like you can get paid more for that, or like people get paid more for that if they don't get paid for the season. No,
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember. I don't think. No,
because that can sometimes be like a factor for people, because sometimes people don't want to come back. Like, they're done. They did the season. That could kind of be a factor.
Yeah.
I think everyone that showed up was willing and wanting to like kind of close the chapter. I think too, like, our season, there was just so much that happened, especially with some of the other engaged couples that then broke up. Like, I think it was just kind of like having some closure maybe in some ways for some people. And there is something like this group of people that you film with, you always have this special connection with them, even if you don't get along, even if you're not best friends, like, you have this special connection because you experience this. It's kind of like trauma bonding in a way, but it's not trauma. It's just like you have this bond.
That makes sense. It's kind of like how you were saying, like, you can't get it unless you do it, because it's still so confusing to me every season. I'm like, they're still talking through the wall. Like, I just can't understand. But it works out, and you guys are a product of that. So catch us up with what's going on. Obviously, you have the baby. Where are you guys living? What are you guys doing? And tell us about your podcast coming up.
Yeah. Well, our baby's 5 months now, which is crazy. So we're just learning how to be parents together and just like honestly basking in her cuteness and adorableness and love. Like that's really our day to day. Zach's still practicing law. I'm kind of still quote unquote on maternity leave, if you will. And before I go back and start working on Bliss Theory, which is my empowerment coaching company or business rather. And then our podcast, we've been recording for like a year now at this point.
Yeah.
Different episodes and stuff. So this is really going to follow our journey from, finding out we're pregnant to going through pregnancy and those different challenges and the holidays and all of the different struggles that we go through and the highs and the lows through, my giving birth and like the birth story and all of that. So
yeah, we're going to release the whole first season in one big
so you guys
chunk.
have a lot to listen to.
So if people want to binge it, they can.
Yeah.
Is it going to be on like YouTube or like Spotify, Apple?
All of the above.
Yeah. It's available on YouTube. It's available on Spotify.
It will be.
Will be, yeah.
Yeah. And we also are bringing in guests that have really powerful stories around love, around parenting. We have a couple of guests it's really inspiring to listen to their stories. And we're also, we did an episode with Nicole and Benaya from Love is Blind UK. And like, we're obviously going to be talking to other people within the reality space and Love is Blind world. So it really gives a little bit of a lot of things at the core of it being our love and our experience.
Yeah. Parenting, family, relationships, love, like that's the core of it. I mean, the core of it is our story and just like how our current life and talking about our experiences. We talk about things like our baby moon and how our I don't know. Do you remember when the plane had the piece of it fall out? Yeah, so that was the day of our baby moon.
That impacted our flight.
So we were walking out the door. The Uber was there, and then Bliss got an email notification like that
our flights were canceled.
And they said it was canceled.
I was so mad.
Wait, so why did you guys decide to like put it all at once, right? Like you have all this footage. Like, did you think about putting it out earlier? Is it something you wanted to kind of batch and then kind of do?
Well, I think the big thing was like we're not professional podcasters or like any of that stuff. So, it really just started out as a way for us to connect with each other and kind of bond and have like a little bit of just me and Bliss just talking.
Yeah, and something to be able to share with our daughter, when she's older. But I think also like who doesn't love to binge, like I think that's kind of also the mindset too. That's true. We're like in a place ready, like we're new parents. I'm a new mom. Like we're in a place now where we're ready to launch it. And I think importantly, we want our podcast to also be a place where people feel connection to us and we want to give back to our community. And, we're not going to come on here and act like we're perfect. Like we have challenges in our relationship. We have highs and lows. We're figuring out how to be new parents. That's a scary thing. So it's just like, we've always been tried to be very like genuine and vulnerable. And we want people to be able to come and listen to that and feel maybe like a safe space for themselves.
It's a pretty raw podcast. So it's not super produced. You see like we just record ourselves. Like there's a lot of really weird, quirky things that happen that we just put in there. Like there's one scene where Bliss is, I have my cat's hair all over my shirt. And so Bliss is like, you should probably get rid of that. And I'm like, are you sure? And then so like she rolls me on the, just little things like that.
It's really an insight into our life. Like
how
it actually is.
Yeah.
I love it.
You'll hear conversations of us just getting set up for the podcast. That's when the best stuff comes out, actually.
That's so great. I love it. Well, I'll be tuning in. I'm so glad I've had you guys on and have gotten to know you better. Bliss, I do have to ask, are you watching The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives? Are you on the Mom Talk train?
Yet. I have to kind of like ease myself in. I have only certain hours during the day with the baby, but I will be tuning in. Chelsea's been telling me
this is all more about important. It. I promise. Like it's more important than the baby can wait.
Okay.
Like I literally like I've got all my friends were being the Mormon wives for Halloween. Like it's the only thing I think about like on a daily basis. So I just needed to let you know that.
Thank you for sharing that with me. Okay. The baby's just gonna have to just like wait.
She can wait.
Yeah.
She's a good baby. She'll handle it.
I'll go watch her.
There
And
you
you can
go.
watch the
There
show.
we
Thank you.
go.
Well, you're gonna get hooked too, so just wait. Tell everybody where they can find you, follow you on social media, follow your business, and listen to the podcast. And the launch is October 10th.
October 10th. So Blind Love podcast. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on our YouTube. Bliss Theory is also my Instagram. So yeah. And then we'll be sharing a whole bunch of fun new updates. Look out for trailers. Look out for fun new guests. It's going to be exciting and a good time.
Yeah.
Where can we follow you, Zach? Do you have a TikTok?
I do. I have a TikTok. It's Zack Goitowski.
We don't know how to spell that.
Yeah, it's okay.
Just Google it.
Yeah.
Okay, I forgot to ask about the property brother thing. I literally thought you were a property brother for so long. Are you a property brother?
That for Halloween, actually.
We were joking.
That's not a costume. That wouldn't be a costume.
Just be real.
The funny thing about that is we actually ended up connecting with Drew. And we did a collab together. Drew and I did, and Bliss was a part of it. But I got compared to them ever since their show came out on HGTV. Like it like was overnight. Everywhere I'd go, they're like, "Hey, you look like those guys off HGTV," and I didn't watch HGTV, so I didn't know what. But it kept going and going and going to the point like I'd go out and people want to have their picture taken with me.
Yeah, you gotta just embrace it.
Yeah,
of course.
So then like after Love is Blind came out, they finally knew my pain.
Yeah.
They're like, who is this guy?
No, I watched them for like my whole entire childhood. So as soon as you were on the show, I was like, it was a mind fuck for sure. Okay, what is your TikTok again? We got that, and your Instagram?
It's Zack Goitowski.
I love it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. It was so nice to chat. Everybody go follow them, get ready for their podcast, and make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you're listening as a podcast, and I will see you guys in the next one.
Thanks,
Bye.
Zachary.
Thanks for having us.